Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Stunning Steve Barber. Joining me, as always, is my awesome co-host, the intellectual rock star himself, Delicious Dwaylen Davis.
Hey, everybody.
And forgive him for wearing that St. Louis Cardinals shirt because they are not the number one team in the NL Central right now. And in
Look,
fact,
years ago I made a deal with my wife. If she would be a Packers fan, then I would be a Cardinals fan. So I'm holding up my end of the deal.
and let me check the standings because as of yesterday morning, the Reds, now they've fallen half a game out of first place now, but they were in first place. They were on a 12-game winning streak.
Well,
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen Ellie De La Cruz, but that dude is an absolute. He's only played in I think 17 games now. Already got 3 home runs. The other night against the Braves on Friday night, he hit for the cycle.
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And my son and I actually went and watched them on Sunday. Now they lost Saturday night and they lost Sunday night, both to the Braves. And the Braves are a hot team right now. So,
hmm
but it was still good games. The it was packed, and got to admit, I'm kind of coming around the Reds, even though the Braves are actually kind of my team too. So I was like kind of torn, but in the home stadium, you cheer for the home team.
Yeah.
So if we were down in Atlanta, I'd probably be going for the Braves.
Right.
And funny thing is, the Reds are actually playing my favorite team in the American League right now, the Orioles. And I'm like, what is
Oh,
up with
okay.
this? I mean, come on now. But they're in Baltimore right now, and Baltimore they beat them down like they stole something yesterday. I mean, it was pretty ugly, but I'm pretty sure the people listening and watching they didn't come to hear us talk about baseball. It just happens to be the thing because I saw
Yeah.
that god awful shirt you have on, and so I decided to, of
Hey,
course, I mean,
would you rather look at my St. Louis Cardinals T-shirt, or would you rather look at my New York Yankees blanket that I usually have on the back of my chair?
uh, I hope they both lose, but but if you notice me, I've got a Super Mario shirt on.
I see that. I
See,
see that.
you can't hate Mario.
No.
So, especially here lately, I've been watching like history of the speed runs, and it's amazing how you
Yeah,
know, uh, and doing like the 100% speed runs, and they're finishing
that's
in like
crazy.
just over an hour, and I'm like, yeah, like so on Super Mario 3, they're finishing just over an hour.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's my favorite one is
Oh
Mario
yeah.
3.
Mario 3, for me, it's like a three-way tie. Mario 3, Super Mario World, and Mario 64. Love those.
See, I quit liking them I quit liking them at 64.
So you
I
do
like
like that one, or you don't like it?
I don't like that one. I stopped
Really?
that's when I stopped, like, basically pretty much that's when I stopped playing Mario. I played 64 and I didn't like it, and I just didn't I guess I just don't like it in 3D, so to speak. I'd rather
Oh, gotcha.
I prefer the side scrolling platformer.
Gotcha. Okay. It makes sense. I mean, everybody kind of has their preferences. So, um, I mean, well, after that, though, I mean, to me, it's just kind of a sign of age, starting to get too complicated. I don't know about all these buttons. But what we're going to talk about today, and if people who have been reading the subject, they already know what we're talking about, is Money in the Bank. And we're not giving a preview of what we think is going to happen this coming Saturday. We're actually going to talk about the Money in the Bank match itself, kind of the history of it, where it began. We've done this before. I know we talked about like the evolution or what we call the de-evolution of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You can find that in our archives on any audio platform that we're on. If we're not there, just let us know, and we'll do what we can to get ourselves added. And and during this, because we have actually been talking about introducing a trivia element to the show, we're going to be sprinkling in some trivia. Actually, I say we. Really, it's going to be me. I'm going to be throwing some trivia questions at Dwaylen because he is the walking wrestling encyclopedia. That's really what WWE stands for. Walking Wrestling Encyclopedia. So,
I like that.
yeah.
I
So,
need a shirt. I need a shirt that says
you know
it.
what? Um, we ought to add that, to to our merchandise store at tpublic.com/user
Yeah.
/armchair-booking-podcast. You can get the armchair booking t-shirts, you can get coffee mugs, you can get pillows like this one. Yes, I have an armchair booking pillow. See, it's on both sides. And I have the armchair booking, the tumbler, which you can't get anymore, sadly. There's armchair booking stickers. See, see both designs. I have actually had people request these, so I may actually order them in bulk. So for people who would like to have those, and so all sorts of stuff you can get there at tpublic.com/user/armchair-booking-podcast. The link will also be in the show description, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually see about every 10 minutes or so the link for that will scroll across the top, as well as the email address, which is armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com. So, but Money in the Bank going to be happening this Saturday in London at 3 o'clock Eastern time.
Mm-hmm.
So 5-hour time difference.
I will probably be working, so I'll have to catch it that night. So
I will make sure not to text you about any spoilers in.
Okay.
I have
to try to stay away from social media.
Probably.
Mainly Twitter is what I'll have to stay away from.
Twitter and the group that we're in on Facebook called Just Wrestling with an Idea.
Yeah, that's true.
So, because our good friend Johnny Valentine, Johnny V, he'll be posting stuff in that because he's one of the admins for that. But I mean, nobody's going to go, well, you know what? Hold off. There's these two guys. They don't want to look at it. No, I mean, it's just
part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of it. So it's up to us to avoid it. We don't want
so Facebook, Twitter, and ESPN, because ESPN sends things. So I'm just gonna, like, when my notifications come up, I'm just gonna clear everything and keep going.
Oh, I had to stop getting notifications from Bleacher Report for the same reason. There was like too many. There were spoilers. I mean, and they're not going to stop sending them. I mean, they're a news site. So But first trivia question, and I'm going right off the Wikipedia page. Who actually came up with the concept of the Money in the Bank match?
Chris Jericho.
Yep. You win. I don't know what the points go towards, but you win.
Yeah.
And do you happen to know there was actually a WWE writer who actually came up with him?
Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Frank Gewurz.
Okay. I knew Freddie Prinze Jr. was a writer for them for a little while, so.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, Chris Jericho came up with the match, the match idea. And that is one of those that I think it seems like every year they either do it really well or they do it really stinky.
Yeah. What I like though is he came up with the idea in real life, so they just carried it across to wrestling storyline. And he would, whenever he was in one, he would always say, this was my idea. What sucks is it's his creation, and he's never won
it. And which is pretty wild. And odds are he probably never will win one now.
No, at this stage, I don't see him going back.
No, I think he's considered persona non grata now when it comes to the WWE, because he jumped to AEW. He was one of their original big stars.
Well, I don't know. Anything can happen though, because I mean Cody's back.
True. But Jericho's out touring with Fozzy. So
yeah, and Jericho's. I mean, if Jericho comes back, it'll be. I see it being for a Hall of Fame induction, not.
And that's true. Which they better put
not
Jericho
a last run. Oh yeah.
Speaking of Jericho, our friends Jamie and John from True Crime Cast, they're going to be on his show again here soon. They announced that today. Yep, they announced it today on the podcast they just released. I need to ask them about, hey, when are you going to be on there? But do you know the exact date? But what event did the Money in the Bank ladder match debut at?
WrestleMania 21.
Oh, good job. Because not just WrestleMania, but nailed the actual 21 part. And
because that was the one where Chris Jericho had his hand on on the briefcase, and Shelton Benjamin ran up the ladder and hit him with the clothesline.
Oh, well, okay. I need to go back and watch that. Um,
Yeah, it. Shelton Benjamin was the MVP of that money, and he was the MVP of several Money in the Bank ladder matches. So,
wow. You know what? You go Google MITB trivia, and you can find a whole lot of websites. So, um, let me see. Um, you see, it's like I'm trying to look at it on my phone so I could actually keep the computer free.
hmm
And because I actually had some questions and now I lost them, so I'm having to go back through again. Um, so what year did it become its own separate pay-per-view?
I'm trying to think. Let's see.
5 seconds.
$2,009.
Close. 2010.
Ah,
So July 18th, 2010, at the Sprint Center in Kansas City, Missouri, which is on the other side of the state from St. Louis, which was
mm.
where that god awful shirt comes from. So, uh, well, yeah, in Kansas City at the Sprint Center, and you would think that this article would actually, it says who won them all, and it says who was involved in them all, but except for it does the pay per views, not the ones before it became its own
Mm,
pay per view.
right.
So I'm going to go look at all those. But as far as like cash ins, I mean, and we'll go through some more trivia here in a little bit about those. If you had to pick like a personal favorite cash in, which one would it be?
Dolph Ziggler when he cashed in on Alberto Del Rio. That's still my
Okay,
favorite one.
okay, and I'm looking to see which year that was. Wow, that was still when it was part of the WrestleMania. Then
hmm
did
No, wait a minute. I'm trying to think. Maybe was it still part of WrestleMania then?
well, I'm not seeing where Dolph Ziggler was the winner. Yep, there. Never mind. There it was. Yeah, in 2012. Was that the year that the Royal Rumble was 40 people instead of 30?
Yes, because it
Del,
was it
Del
was
Rio
Del
won it.
Rio's it was Del Rio's big push. Uh, yeah, Del Rio won it, won the 40 man, got the shot at the title, then faced Edge at WrestleMania in the opening match for the world title. Then Edge retired, and then blah blah blah.
And
Del
then
Rio ended up with it, and yeah, Ziggler cashed in.
and Dolph Ziggler, I mean, I really wish they would get him. I love watching Dolph Ziggler. I know for
hmm
whatever reason, it seems like WWE aren't high on him right now, and I don't get that.
Yeah, it's like they've never pushed him as like the guy. I mean, he's been world heavyweight champion. He was NXT champion for a cup of coffee, but it's like they've never pushed him as the guy. And it's like, I don't know why, because his mic skills are good. His in ring work is amazing. His selling is on par with Mr. Perfect and Shawn Michaels, the way
Hmm.
he sells. And he's got everything you need. So I don't understand what the issue is.
Um, good skill set.
Yeah,
You know,
amazing athlete. I
yeah,
mean,
you know, the zigzag I think is one of the most underrated moves out there.
oh yeah,
I mean, because that's a move. If you did that on somebody in real life, you'd probably break their neck.
yeah,
That's why
yeah.
it looks very, very legit, and people just don't
hmm
use it. But everybody uses the sling blade. I'm not impressed with the sling blade. Yeah, I mean it's a clothesline. It's
Well,
interesting.
it's like when Finn Balor did it when he was in New Japan. it looked rough. It looked like it would hurt. But WWE's got to put cold water on a lot of moves. So now it's like it looks like you just grab at the guy's head and the guy just falls back. It doesn't,
Yeah.
it doesn't look like it would hurt at all. It just looks like somebody was clumsy and couldn't keep their footing.
Oh, and my favorite as far as the cash ins, honestly, is probably Seth Rollins.
That would be my number two. Yeah,
Yeah.
the heist of the century, as Michael
Yeah.
Cole called it. Yeah,
Yeah. The heist of the century.
yeah.
And not just because I predicted it either, because that will always be.
You did call it. You
I
did
did
call
call
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I texted you what, like 2 or 3 weeks before, and I said Rollins
Hmm.
is going to cash in. He hasn't,
Yeah.
And then when they started talking about it, like,
Because he was getting, I mean, because WrestleMania is in April, and he had already had the briefcase since the previous July, so he was getting close to that year of, you've got to cash it in within 1 year.
yeah, and yeah, but they had not really mentioned it. But then, during his match with Randy Orton, of course, when Randy
Hmm.
Orton did, one of the best RKO's ever,
Oh yeah.
that was just amazing how he did that when he popped him up and whoop, boom, came
Yep.
down. But they kept mentioning all this Seth Rollins, the Money in the Bank winner. He's not cashed it in yet. Wink, wink, stomp,
I
stomp.
know. It's like, could you be any more obvious of what you're going to do when you're just, it's like, let's not be subtle. Let's just hit you with a brick. Here you go.
Yeah.
He's cashing in.
Now the only thing I did get wrong is I said he was going to cash it in after the match ended.
Yeah, I was not expecting him to cash in like middle of the match
No, the match.
and end up making it a triple threat. But
Yeah.
it genius move. But
Um, and I don't know if you've ever seen this video. Well, sometimes they've enhanced the audio that the
mhm,
microphones are picking up. And as Seth Rollins is pinning Roman Reigns, he said, "Thank you so much."
mhm,
So I mean, he was a little bit of ring talk, which is funny because
yeah.
I actually heard a little bit of ring talk this weekend at the NWF show.
Sometimes some people I've seen on Twitter, and you know how Twitter is. Wrestling Twitter is terrible at times. They
Yeah,
just like to complain just to complain. But a lot of people complain about ring talk. It doesn't really bother me because it's like in this day and age, everything is there's so much technology. There's no way you're not going to hear some of that.
right,
So, and for something like that, with him telling somebody that, how much he appreciates them, doing the job for him,
right.
it's like, I like hearing stuff like that.
Yep. And the one this weekend, um, the reason why I mean, I heard it and I heard hit me spear, and well, the guy hit him and
You
then he
hit him.
speared him. But I think the reason why I heard it was because he had to say it a little loud because the crowd was getting very, very loud. You
Oh,
know,
okay.
you know. Funny thing is, I've only heard ring talk. Well, one other event, I actually heard it twice, and that's because the crowd was very, very quiet. It was,
Right, right. Yeah.
the crowd was a little bit too quiet, and just the way that was at a show in Mount Orb when I heard somebody pushing somebody else into the ropes, and as the person was getting pushed in the ropes, I heard reverse, and sure enough,
Yeah.
came off, and it was a reverse. And then the other one was same guy that I heard this past weekend was picking up a dude, another guy in the corner. The guy was kind of standing up, and I heard him go, "Not yet, not yet, not yet." So, but that's
Like,
because of
hold on.
where, yeah, and I was happened to be sitting right by that corner, and it
Hmm.
was just so quiet in there, just the way. The crowd just wasn't as loud as what they normally were for what either that or just the sound was just dissipating because it's a very open. Well, actually, the one down in Covington is also very open, so the sound
Right.
just goes; it doesn't come back. So but yeah, it's the only time I heard it. But yeah, um, but like you said, for Rollins to do that, because they have microphones under the ring,
Hmm.
and that's so they could the sound is picked up and amplified,
Yeah.
like the actual slams and the slaps and the
Hmm.
thigh slaps and and all that's picked up. It's not so they can actually listen to each other talk. And but that cash in when he did it, and he got the title. As soon as he cashed in, I'm like, oh yeah, he's champion. You
Oh yeah,
know,
yeah.
and you know, but uh, quick trivia: what year did they have the first women's Money in the Bank match?
2018.
Close, 2017.
Ah,
And who retrieved the briefcase in the women's match? The women's
James Ellsworth, which is I get what they were going for because he
Yeah.
was Carmella's lackey, and so he was going to go up there and get it. And if this had been 4 or 5 ladder matches in, that'd been one
Yeah.
thing. But to have the first ever women's ladder match basically be won by a man is not a good look at all.
No.
And they knew that, and all the backlash, they ended up having to redo it on SmackDown. Carmella still won, which the I just didn't enjoy Carmella as champion. I didn't enjoy her, you know, whole run with the briefcase, which she's held it the longest of any woman who's ever won it.
True.
Yeah, she was the first one, held it the longest before she cashed in. I did like the cash in because she cashed in on Charlotte, and
Yep.
anytime people cash in on Charlotte, I'm always excited. Um, but then they fed Asuka to her, and I was like, well, nope, not for me. This is
Mm.
no.
And
In no reality is Carmella a match for Asuka.
no. Now
No.
Carmella's she's a lot better than
I mean,
she
she
did.
improved,
Yeah.
but there's improved here, and there's Asuka at the
Yeah.
top of the food chain.
And during that run where she had the briefcase, and of course when she had James Ellsworth with her,
Hmm.
um, there was actually something about wrestling, kind of in general, that I had to explain to Avery because she was seeing, Carmella first. She was with, um, oh my God, Enzo and Big Cass,
Yeah, yeah, because
and
she was actually dating
engaged.
Big Cass in
Oh,
real
she
life.
was engaged to Big
Oh,
Cass.
were they engaged?
They
Oh,
were
okay.
engaged, and of course, then they broke up, and then it got ugly, and made things awkward, and then he ended up getting booted from WWE for um drop kicking a little guy. That
I always thought it was crappy that she didn't get called up with them because I mean she was part of the package.
Well, she
It was
did, but they put them on like Raw, and they put her on SmackDown.
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. But they should have
They should have
left
put
them
them
together
together. Yeah.
because they were a very, very good trio.
Hmm.
And but Avery was asking, why do they always put her with somebody else? They don't think she can do it on her own. I'm like, it's not her they're putting with somebody else. It's the people she's with need somebody.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
she's good, really good at elevating people
Yeah.
and actually helping them out. That's why they
Especially on the
put,
heel side, she's good at getting that heel heat.
yeah,
She knows
so
how to be. She knows how to be just annoying enough to get the heel heat without dialing it too far up and just getting go away heat. There's a fine line between being an annoying heel and a go away heel, and I think she's perfected that.
yep. And so Carmella took a little bit, but yeah, she did finally kind of grow on me a little bit. Um, my wife didn't like her, so because one time I asked
I've
her,
never been a big fan. I do like her submission though, the code of silence. I do like that.
hmm, um, I still like Paige's better. that
Yeah,
that oh my God, what do they even call it now?
Rampage.
Okay, the Rampage, but when
Yeah,
because that one looks like, I'm like, that looks like that would legitimately hurt. Good luck getting out of
yeah,
that, you
yeah.
know. And even when she did it to somebody in the announce table, I'm like, I don't know why, it just seems like it adds to it, even though it shouldn't
Yeah.
matter. But she hit her move on the announce table.
Hmm.
So well, the same year Carmella kind of got the briefcase that James Ellsworth went up the the ladder and got it for her. That was also the year Baron Corbin won.
Baron Corbin.
Yeah, and he is
He
one
was
of
still he was still in the lone wolf phase, which to me was working. They should have left that alone. And you know, there was no better time if they were going to experiment and see how he would do in the main event scene. There was no better time than to pull the trigger, considering the Jinder Mahal experiment was failing with him as WWE champion. So if I would had been the booker, I'd been like, okay, we tried it with Jinder, it didn't work out, but we haven't backed ourselves into a corner because we've got Corbin over here with the briefcase, so we've got an out. So just have Corbin cash in on Jinder and take the title, even if he only holds it for, you know, even if he only pulls an Edge when Edge first cashed his in and only hold it for like 3 weeks, you still achieved your goal. You tried something new, it didn't work, so you pivot and go with the up and coming guy that just came up from NXT, and you've been doing a pretty decent push with him. And I found out he did get in trouble for getting into it with a member of the military that he didn't know was a member of the military when
right.
he got into an argument on Twitter. But what really got him in trouble was he got into an argument with a doctor who was downplaying concussion effects on football players.
Really?
And Baron Corbin played football.
Yeah.
And he understands the severity of that. So Corbin was rightfully so was offended by that, and him and this doctor got into this, you know, pretty big disagreement, and so Corbin got punished because he went against what this doctor is saying, even though the doctor was wrong, and so he gets punished. So they have him cash in the briefcase and get rolled up by Jinder Mahal.
Oh, and
Due to a John Cena distraction.
Yep. And I remember when that happened, I'm like, okay, well, I guess his push is gone.
Mm-hmm. And then they fed him the Cena at SummerSlam.
Yep.
And Cena just basically ran through him. And it's like, you had something good here. I mean, he had a good look, a good presence. The music was good. The whole, you know, End of Days is still one of the best finishers out there.
Yep.
Deep Six
I say,
is
yeah,
still one
the
of
setup move. I couldn't remember the name of it, but
yeah,
and
Deep Six is still one of those best setups for it. And
that's just a cool looking move.
Yeah, especially from a guy his size.
Yeah.
I mean, dude is quick to be that tall, and that because I mean he's so tall that people don't realize that dude's about 250, 260 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like 6'7", 6'8", so it just
yeah.
spreads out. But yeah, I mean, but that's that's the sad tale of Baron Corbin's Money in the Bank run. It's like the company screwed him.
Yep.
He's standing up for him. He was standing up for himself, other football players, other wrestlers, because this doctor's downplaying the effects of concussions in not just football, but all sports. And it's like, no, you can't, no. But then WWE gets mad because he disagreed with the doctor and got into an argument with him over an extremely important issue. So he gets punished and gets his push wiped away. And he's never recovered from that.
No, he hasn't. I mean, he was starting to get a little bit better. I mean, they had him as a corporate Corbin, which to me, okay, you say he's corporate, but yet you have the same backing video. It made no sense.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, that made no sense. The Constable Corbin was just ridiculous. It was just dumb. Him getting 3 straight Universal title matches was dumb because everybody knew Corbin was not winning the title. They don't call you Constable and then turn around and say, oh, hey, we're going to make you world champion. No, they gave you a dumb gimmick and then sent you out there to die.
Now, the King of the Ring, When he was King Corbin, I'm like, okay, it's annoying, but it's meant
It's
to be
annoying, but
annoying.
it's supposed to be. When you're a heel, being the king is supposed to be annoying. So yeah, it was there, except problem with the king thing is that's how we got Shorty G. So I can't because
Oh,
because they put him, they put him in a feud with Chad Gable, and the whole point of the feud was Corbin talking about how short he was. And so then they just repackaged Gable as Shorty G. You take an Olympic level technician who people don't understand. Chad Gable is one of the best technical wrestlers in the world.
hmm.
You take this guy with all this skill and all this talent and just reduce him to something that wouldn't have gotten over in the new generation era.
And not only that, but one of the first rules of doing a promo is you don't talk about their lack of size or how they're too big, like too fat, or how they're too
Hmm.
old, because that's
Yeah,
you
but
build
you've
up your
got
opponent.
Vince. Vince uses his wrestlers at times to get his views on that particular wrestler out there. Like the worst example of that was the Piggy James storyline with Michelle
Horrible,
McCool and Layla versus
horrible.
Mickey James, and that was simply because Vince McMahon thought Mickey James had gained too much weight and was not attractive. I don't know which Mickey James he was looking at, but that woman was hot. She's still hot. I don't know what he's looking at. But he put that poor woman through all of that, and bravo to her for you know going through that. But it's like another example of how are people just okay with Vince McMahon when he has this history of degrading women. I don't understand. And people are just like, oh well, Vince McMahon's greatest thing since sliced bread. No, he's not.
Honestly, and I know we're kind of getting off on a little side tangent, but I will compare Vince McMahon and the people who turn a blind eye because they're getting paychecks, fat paychecks, to Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein.
Yep,
It was an open
yep.
secret until
Hmm.
finally
Yeah,
somebody stepped
yeah.
up and said
Somebody
no
didn't
more.
take the payoff, and yeah,
Yep. And then, of course, then you find out all these other ones who did take the payoff. Say, yeah, he did it. Yeah, you still took the payoff. That's blood money. Just like the ones.
exactly. It's like my mom said the same thing about Bill Cosby. She's like, what he did to all those women was terrible, but the women that took the money, she's like, you can't take the money and then turn around 30 years later and you know go after him. It's like
Yeah,
you already took that check and cashed it.
and
So
you let it happen to somebody else. It's one thing something bad happens
exactly,
to
and you
me. You
yeah,
know,
and you
I'm
knew
gonna
what was happening to other people, and you just let it happen because oh well, I got a fat paycheck.
yeah, and I'm gonna try to keep it from happening to somebody else.
Hmm.
That's
Exactly.
just the way I am, and I know that's the way you are.
Hmm.
But yeah, um, but back to the money in the bank. Speaking of payoffs, the so with Carmella and Baron Corbin winning, both won in 2017. Carmella's was controversial because they had James Ellsworth. They had him walk up and get it. Now, I will say the next women's winner, I was very much happy about because I am very big on her on this woman anyway. Even though she is well, kind of like Alexa Bliss, she's not wrestling right now for the same reason. She got a little bit of a bun in the oven.
Hmm.
That'd be
Yep.
Miss Alexa Bliss.
Yeah.
so
I was looking at mine to see if it went off, but it
so
didn't.
but Miss Bliss, she won the next year, and wasn't that the year that was in 2018? That was the year that it was Nia Jax
And
and
Rhonda.
Ronda.
Yeah. And then, yeah, Nia Jax was the champion. Ronda was challenging. Bliss won. About an hour later, she comes out, beats the bejesus out of Ronda with that briefcase.
With the briefcase.
and then did the same to Nia Jax, and then pinned her and won.
Yep. And did her move, the Twisted Bliss. Love that move.
Yep.
First person I saw do it was Too Cold Scorpio.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Love the move. When I designed a wrestler in 2K17, 18, whichever one it was, the first one that I had, I think it was 17. I actually made my wrestler's finishing move that.
I did that, except I used. He was the first person I ever saw do the 450, so I used
Yep, he
that.
was. Yep.
So I used that as my finisher on my created character. So Two Cold
And
Scorpio does not get enough credit for his wrestling contributions either.
no, he doesn't. I mean, the high flying stuff he did. He was another one that's like, I don't know why y'all bother having him mad. He's not going to be on it. He's just going to be in the air the whole time.
Yeah, and I mean he was a decent sized guy. He wasn't like a cruiserweight. I mean he was, he was a big guy, but
He
he could
was
move.
actually,
Yeah.
deceptively, big
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, because you put him up against all these other guys who are massive, but
Mm-hmm.
just on his own, yeah, he was a big dude,
Yeah.
and he could wrestle. He could have a good match. And there was a I had this on VHS, and it's somewhere, it probably in my garage somewhere. It it was a WCW tape, and it was him and Benoit, and
Mm-hmm. I remember
yeah,
that. Yep.
yeah,
I've seen that.
and this was like 1992 Benoit,
Mm-hmm.
and that match was something else. I mean, both, and
They
because
did.
Benoit could go, everybody knew that,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and
They did that. They revisited that match when they were both in ECW years
really,
down the line. Yeah, it
okay,
was even better than that one
really,
because you know how Heyman is. It's like there's no restrictions on his wrestlers. It's like
right.
you're good. Go out there and do it. Show them what you can do.
Yeah, so yeah, Scorpio could show. I mean, yeah, he was more than just a high flyer. I mean, he had some
Hmm.
moves,
Yeah.
and apparently he was also double tough and was not afraid of anybody, because when they had the North Korea tour, he was ready. He said he was going to kill Michael Hegstrand, also known as Road Warrior Hawk,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
whatever beef they had, I mean, I mean, and that was not a joke. He was going to kill him. He was going to jump him,
Oh
and
yeah. He wasn't afraid, and a lot of people in the locker rooms were afraid of the Road Warriors, but
mhm.
Too Cold was not.
um, okay, my daughter just texted me. She's working now at the Frisch's in Batavia.
Hmm.
And if you give the Frisch's in Batavia a 5-star review, you get a free hot fudge sundae or
Hmm.
sundae cake or whatever. Which I'm like, really, Avery? I have diabetes, and you're going to tempt me like that? But I may just do it anyway. She just texted us and said, "Tell everybody in the family to come out to the Frisch's tonight because so far they're kind of slow. She's only had one table."
Oh wow.
So, um, unlike this past Sunday where my son and I went there after the Reds game and they were slammed.
Mm.
Yeah, so but she's enjoying it. She's making, pretty good money off tips, and but anyway, um the same night that Alexa Bliss won hers, Braun Strowman won, the men's.
Hmm.
And was that the year? Yeah. For me, the Money in the Bank, the concept is, to me, I would go, you cash it in as a surprise.
Yeah, you catch the champion when they're vulnerable.
Yes.
You don't you don't go up to them and be like, here's when and where I'm cashing in, and give them time to prepare for you.
Right.
You it's a built-in sneak attack is basically what it is. It's like it's you have the element of surprise.
And you remember when Braun Strowman had it, they
Hmm.
had, announced like a month ahead of time, oh, he's going to cash in, and have his title match at
Hell in
uh,
a Cell.
Hell in a Cell.
It was him and yeah, because the SummerSlam match, he came out at the beginning of the SummerSlam match, and everybody thought, oh, he's gonna cash it in. We're gonna get a triple threat, kind of like Seth Rollins did. And then he said, I'm next. I'm challenging the winner of this match. Roman beats Lesnar. Then he announces it the next night on Raw. I'm challenging you at Hell in a Cell. I'm cashing this in at Hell in a Cell. And then it was a wasted cash in because Lesnar broke into the cell, F5'd everybody in sight, and left. So the match ended up being a no contest, and Strowman just wasted a cash in.
Yep. Because for whatever reason, Vince, you would think he would have loved Strowman as champion.
Yeah, and he was
But
over. He was so over. It was he was he was hotter than he had ever been before and has ever been since. That was the time to go with it, and put the universal title on him. You know, the get these hands catchphrase was over. He was moving
yes,
merchandise like crazy. And but Vince refused to take the title off Roman because he still wanted that John Cena replacement that he thought Roman was going to be. And it just didn't happen. Sidebar, Roman Reigns is now, quote unquote, the John Cena replacement that Vince wanted him to be, but as a heel. Because regardless of Roman as a heel, everybody loves Roman. And it's gotten to be where it's a big event when Roman shows up. Like if he defends the title, it's a big event. If he's on a pay-per-view, it's a big event because it's so infrequent now that he's become an attraction.
I wouldn't. They need to revamp that. I wouldn't say he's the new John Cena. He's the new superstar Billy Graham.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, because
But I'm just saying, as far as popularity
yeah,
goes,
yeah. But
he's that replacement for Cena being gone. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, superstar
because
Billy Graham. Yeah, that
because
would be.
Billy Graham, he was putting butts in seats as a heel
Oh
champion.
yeah, and he was, and he wasn't. People weren't paying to see him get beat. People were paying to see him beat other people
Hmm.
and to see and to hear what outlandish thing he had to say, see what he was wearing, all this stuff. It's like they were coming to see him
Yep.
because he was something new. He was a breath of fresh air. It's like you went from black and white to with Bruno to live Technicolor with superstar Billy Graham.
Yes. Yes, with the tie dye. The funny thing is, he was doing it in the 70s, where tie dye was kind of going away. That
Hmm.
was more of a sick, but he kept it. I mean, he
He's like, no, I'm gonna
yeah, I like this,
give me that back. Yeah.
and I
Well,
could have
it's like
sworn if he
Roman.
went.
It's like Cena. It's kind of like that with Roman and Cena. Cena got to that point where it was just like same old. And,
Yep.
you know, and then Roman flips the switch and turns into the tribal chief and is just, there's really no end to where he can take this with or without the title. He's built himself, and that's a testament to Roman. He has built this character into something that no longer needs the championship to be the most important thing in the company.
Um, I'm looking now. The next women's winner. This is in 2019. Do you remember who it was?
Bailey,
And I'm trying to remember what she did with it, because that was all.
she cashed in that night on Charlotte.
Okay.
It was another one about an hour and a half later after she won it. She cashed in.
Okay, I couldn't. For some reason, I didn't remember Bailey had won it. I don't know why.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, because Bailey is the. I'm trying to think. Has Bailey won the women's rumble?
you know what? I don't think she has.
That's the only thing she's missing because she's of active championships. She has been the NXT Women's Champion, Raw, SmackDown Tag Champion, won Money in the Bank. The
Because
only person that's done all of them is Asuka because
yeah,
Asuka won the Women's Rumble. She was the first winner of the Women's Rumble.
and because Asuka is just awesome.
Exactly.
Um, and I do like Bailey. Oh, okay, I'm reading it. Yeah, she won in 20 seconds over Charlotte.
Hmm. Oh yeah, she cashed in real quick.
Yeah. Now, how do you feel about when they cash in same night?
Okay, like, and here's why, and it's sad that it has to be like this. With the women's division, I prefer them to cash in because the longer they hold on to it, the worse they get booked.
True.
So I would rather them cash in the same night or the next night on Raw and then build the reign from there instead of them holding it for 200 plus days and get booked to lose constantly because, the 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 foundation of the women's division is still kind of fragile and the booking is hit or miss. And I always get worried when somebody holds, especially if one of the women's to hold the briefcase for a while, it's like, how bad are they going to screw this up? Because history
Yeah.
has shown that they are masters of screwing it up.
And
But I don't have a problem with the women cashing in the same day or the next night on Raw. I don't I don't mind the men doing it either, but the only one that I can think of that's done it on the same show, take that back, two. Kane did it to Rey Mysterio when the year Kane won, and Ambrose did it to Seth.
yep. Um, yeah, because that was that night, all three members of the Shield at some point held the world title.
Yep. And that's the only time in wrestling history that I can think of that all three members of a faction were world champion on the same night.
On the same night. And good luck trying to get another scenario where that would happen again.
Where
Even
that works out. Yeah.
even doing a
Yeah.
Money in the Bank,
Yeah.
again.
because
Um,
Roman was about to do 30. Roman got suspended for 30 days, so he drops the title to Seth that way to get the title off Roman, and then Dean cashes in on Seth, which which the story came full circle from where Seth stabbed him in the back and broke up the Shield.
Now Sheamus, and a lot of people forget about this. In 2015, Sheamus won it, and then he ended
Ugh,
up,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, he ended up beating Roman for the title. It was a Survivor Series, wasn't it?
that's right. He cashed in. Yeah, yeah, he cashed in at Survivor Series, like right after Roman beat Dean to win the vacant title. When Seth blew his knee out,
Yes, that's right.
and had to forfeit the title. And so they had a little mini tournament, and it was Roman and Dean in the finals. Honestly, I was hoping they put it on Dean, but of course they went with Roman, and then had Sheamus come out and cash in right when Roman's celebrating and all the ticker tapes coming down and all that, and then he hits a brogue kick and that's it. And Triple H was not happy with that booking either because you
Really.
could tell Triple H raised his hand, but you could see it all over his face. Like, who booked this crap?
Now, when Sheamus beat Daniel Bryan in 18 seconds or whatever it was at that one WrestleMania, I
Hmm.
guess I guess he had not won a Money in the Bank for that. No, he didn't.
Yeah,
That
he
was
had
just
one.
normal. That was a normal match. Never mind. That was the
Yeah,
Rumble. But that's when he won the Rumble.
he won the
That's
Rumble
right.
and picked the World Heavyweight title. Yeah, which that match at the time I was furious because it's like I wasn't a huge Sheamus fan then. I like the Brogue Kick, but I wasn't a big fan of his, but I was a big fan of Daniel Bryan because I'd watched him through Ring of Honor and the Indies and different things. And I just thought a guy with that talent, it was disrespectful just to have him lose that quick. But it ended up being a blessing in disguise because it got him over.
And Sheamus, he's one of those. It's like, mm,
Yeah.
I mean, I like
He
his style is just brutal. Which
hmm
and I'm fine with that. I mean, everybody's got to have their style. I mean, but he's very very brutal.
yeah. Like
And
I like Sheamus right now. Like the way
yeah,
he's been booked like last year and this year. This I actually like Sheamus and his match with Walter last year at I know they say Gunther, but I'm still going to say Walter.
Yeah, whatever.
But his match with Walter last year was awesome. That to me, that was match of the night when he had that match at Clash at the Castle.
And I think that was one of the ones we even said before they even had the event. That was probably going to be the match of the night, the match to
Hmm.
watch,
Oh
period,
yeah,
because when we were looking forward to the most.
yeah.
And it definitely delivered.
And you saw, I mean, it was all over Twitter, like just nothing but praise for that match. And speaking of Daniel Bryan Danielson
Hmm.
leads back to Money in the Bank because he won the Money in the Bank ladder match.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think what year. Uh, I know he won it, and then that December he cashed in on the Big Show. It was a T. It was I think it was a TLC because Big Show beat Mark Henry for the World Heavyweight title because Mark Henry was injured and they had to get the belt off of him. Daniel Bryan cashed in on Big Show because Mark Henry gave Big Show the world's strongest slam on a stack of chairs. And
Ooh.
then Daniel Bryan snuck in, cashed it in, and pinned him. Gets on the announce table, and he was still considered a face then, uh, but he had been showing a little bit of heelish tendencies. He gets on the announce table. He's pretty much putting the belt in Michael Cole's face, like, haha, I did it, because Michael Cole had been trashing him since NXT. Michael Cole had been instructed to just talk crap about Daniel Bryan from the time he was in NXT all the way through until he cashed in and won the title. And everybody's cheering, and it's like, oh, the babyface won. And then like he flipped the switch and was like, I didn't do this for any of you. I did this for me. And he immediately turned
Ooh.
turned heel, and it was amazing. And what I'm getting at though is, he's a former Money in the Bank winner with a successful cash in. I've watched him for a long time. Daniel Bryan, in my opinion, and I'm sure you saw what I put on Facebook, is the best wrestler in the world. The man wrestled 20 minutes with a broken forearm. He
Yeah.
went 30 minutes with Okada, broke his forearm in the first 10 minutes, and went 20 more minutes with a broken forearm.
And
And
it's
people could, and the thing is, people have been on Twitter like, they're like, I've gone back and watched this again, and I can't see where he's carrying it like he's injured. That's how good he is. He hit it, and nobody, he hit a broken forearm for 20 minutes, and nobody knew. Nobody knew
oh,
until the presser at the press conference after the show when he said he broke his forearm.
and we had this discussion before we started recording about broken bones. Oddly enough, uh,
Yeah.
because my wife right now she has a stress fracture in her heel. So she has to stay off her feet. She's wearing the boot. And I made the comment, but yeah, she was almost 45 years old before she had her first broken bone. And then you revealed that you're almost 50 and have never had a broken bone. Um, and
Yeah.
I first broke a bone when I was, I think, 12. You know, um, may have been 13. It was when actually, you know what? I think I was 13. I broke my hand in a bicycle wreck because that's
Hmm.
what you do when you're 13 is you have bicycle wrecks and you break a bone and popped a wheelie on the bike. And as I popped the wheelie, the front wheel came off. I don't know if something happened and the
Yeah.
nuts had loosened up because I'd been jumping off ramps and things like that before that. Well, the wheel came off, and at that moment, it's like, what do you do? Of course, I came down, slammed my hand on the pavement on the asphalt, the road, broke my hand. And then a couple years later, actually we went to Hopkinsville, another bike wreck, bunny
Hmm.
hopped to 10 speed, never do that.
Hmm.
The front wheel went whoop, like that. And of course, now the front wheel is no longer round. It is now an egg shape. And of course, it made the whole bike flip.
Right.
And
Right.
I went over, broke my collarbone. Um, I can tell you, I've also broken my coccyx. I can, yeah, your tailbone. I broke my butt.
Yeah.
I've broken that. There's nothing they could do about it. Just,
Hmm.
here, have some ibuprofen, or what the military call it, vitamin M. You have your Motrin. And because you get a lot of ibuprofen in the military. I just feel like that. But
Yeah.
I've cracked ribs. We've talked about that too. And I can tell you, broken bones do not feel good. I can tell you, if I broke my forearm, I wouldn't be doing anything for the next 20 minutes except for maybe cry.
Right.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Daniel Bryan, for him to break a forearm in that match and still keep going. And you got to think, I mean, your forearm,
Hmm.
think about all the things that you do, and if it's your dominant hand, I mean, how do you, um, how do you do anything after that?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but so this, this upcoming Money in the Bank, we would definitely give a preview on that. Probably, I'm going to guess probably Thursday.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're about to wrap this up. Um, but I will say the one I did not like when he won it was just because the way he won it was Brock. Sorry, Kyle. I know you love beatbox Brock. I wasn't. Oh, it was just because of the way that he entered it at the very last minute.
Like, and I loved the personality he showed with the beatbox, where the briefcase was a boom box and all that. But yeah, I didn't like it made Mustafa Ali look like an idiot
Hmm.
because he's standing there. Brock's music hits, and it's like, okay, I know the beast is coming. Let me unhook this real quick and get out of here.
Yeah, and
Instead, he
get
just stands there with his hand on the briefcase and watches Brock come through, about kill a cameraman, and then throw him off the ladder. It's like, who booked this? Vince McMahon. It's
yeah.
like Brock wasn't even in the match. So it's like you let all these guys go out and, you know, put their bodies through this just for Brock to walk out, climb the ladder, and grab it.
I did like when Big E held it because he was just funny.
Oh yeah, yes. I loved that, and I love the cash in on I love the cash in on Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
Um, there's three men have cashed in twice: Edge, CM Punk, and The Miz.
Yep.
Because Miz beat Otis, which Otis should have never won the Money in the Bank
Yeah.
anyway. And honestly, I think that was a mistake. I think AJ was supposed to get it, and
And
something
it
messed up,
fell, and it
and
fell in
it
his
fell.
hands.
Yeah, and Otis caught it and was just like, "Oh, well, it's just like the year John Cena won it, who should never have been in it because John Cena does not need
No, he
the
doesn't.
Money in the Bank to get a title shot. He just walks up and say, "Hey, I want a shot at the championship," and that's how he gets his matches. But he went to hit the Big Show with it, and it just came off in his hand. And I don't think he was supposed to win that either.
Oh, sorry
Um,
about that.
but Punk cashed in on Edge the first time, and then Jeff Hardy the second time, and then Edge cashed in on John Cena the first time, and then the Undertaker the second time. The second time he got it, Mr. Kennedy got an injury that they thought it was a bicep tear. He had won Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 22. They thought it was, no, not 22, 23, because Van Dam won at 22, because Van Dam cashed in at One Night Stand that year and beat Cena. Um, the next year, Kennedy wins. They think he's got a bicep tear, so they need to get the briefcase off of him. But it was a mistake by the doctor. What it was a hematoma, which was only going to take 4 to 6 weeks to heal up. Torn bicep, he'd been out nine to 12 months.
Hmm.
So mistake by the doctor cost him Money in the Bank because by the time they found out that the doctor had made a mistake, Edge had already beat him for the briefcase. And,
Um, go ahead.
and then the Miz cashed in on Randy Orton the first time. That was the year he won the title, went to WrestleMania, and actually main evented and won, which made no sense. But and then he cashed in on Drew McIntyre and then held it for 6 days, and then Bobby Lashley killed him and took the title.
I mean, I like the Miz and all, but Bobby Lashley,
Yeah.
they've been misusing. I know we got hurt the one time. Okay,
Hmm.
which
But
sucked. But
still,
um, and then Liv Morgan, they booked her horribly after she won it.
oh yeah, they booked
Uh,
her. They booked her like trash, and
um,
yeah, like that. It was awesome to see her win it,
Mm-hmm.
And I loved Michael Cole because that was genuine excitement for her from him. And but then they booked her terribly.
Nikki Ash, when she won it, I was like, okay, this will be good. And she cashed in, and then they made her start looking weak. I mean, it was,
Oh, yeah, extremely weak.
yeah.
They booked her. I mean, she lost all the time, and then she dropped the title back to Charlotte. Everybody that's cashed in on Charlotte has lost the title back to Charlotte.
So she is like her dad.
Yes, yeah. It's
So,
like, oh, you can take my championship, but I know you're going to have to give it back. So,
but honestly, worse than Corbin's cash in was Theory's last year.
oh, we cashed in on the U.S. title.
It
Oh my God.
didn't even need to cash in because it was an
No,
open
it was an
challenge.
open challenge, but it's like, I'm
That's
going to cash
called,
this in.
it's like, I'm gonna put this briefcase in my locker for a
Yeah,
little bit unless I hit you with
exactly.
it, you know.
Yeah. And it's a
And
triple threat. So there was no, because he had an open challenge. So it ended up being him and Seth and Bobby Lashley. And it was like, you got triple threat conditions. There's no disqualifications. Beat the crap up of them with the briefcase, win the title, and save your cash in for Roman, which is where you should have been trying to cash in to begin with.
yeah, I mean, now granted, like I said, if R-Truth would have got it, he would have cashed in the 24/7 title, but that would have been funny because that's
I would have been good
R-Truth.
because that's our truth.
That's
Yeah.
R-Truth. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, R-Truth has done everything there. He's already been a world champion. He's like, you know what? I'm
Twice.
twice. I'm not
And he held
here.
it. And he held the belt that's behind you at the bottom, the
There you
10
go.
pounds.
The 10 pounds. And like I said, that one's more like 8 pounds of brass, trust me. But it's autographed by Tommy Rich and Dan Severn.
Hey,
Yeah.
so there you go.
For people watching on YouTube, you've may notice there's a change back there. I actually got a corner shelf. I'm able to actually put those two belts on, and my cubes are still right there. So, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Give shout outs real quick to Ted the Hillbilly Hill, to BC Hunter at Wrestling with the Truth, to all the guys at Finish Your Wrestling. Love all you guys. And
Absolutely.
we're talking about collaborating with everybody. At least I know we've actually talked about again about collaborating, hopefully Wrestling with the Truth. But I know we've got some stuff in the works with Ted. We're talking about collabing again with Finish Your Wrestling going on their show. Because that was an awesome show when they were on ours, and so we got to return the favor. That's just how it goes. Podcast community, especially
Yep.
the wrestling podcast community. Give a shout out to the Dad World Order. They actually were not there this Saturday. I was kind of disappointed I didn't get a chance to see them. But they were doing some other stuff involving wrestling. That's just how they roll.
Right.
So more awesome guys. So we're planning on having a preview show probably Thursday. I think if not Thursday, then maybe Friday at the latest. Hopefully, because we definitely got to get it before Saturday.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But I'm gonna have to bid Dwaylen and that god awful shirt farewell for now. My son hates the Cardinals, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Reds game he ever watched was against the Cardinals. Cardinals won. He's hated them ever since. That's just the way logic works. But until we can actually talk again, my friend, I'll just say goodbye and God bless.
God bless.